Hi lovelies, welcome to this YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, you are welcome. Please hit on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell. If you are a returning subscriber, love you. Today's tutorial, we are going to be recreating this beautiful style, the down part with slits at the skirt. And this is really beautiful, guys. It's a free straight skirt with slits at the front, and the upper part will be on this white one, the draping at the upper part. So then it's also going to be having a strap, just what you see right now. So watch and enjoy. Please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think on the comment section. Enjoy. Guys, here is my pattern, and as usual I'm going to be coming down 1/2 inch. This will be serving as our guideline. I'll be coming down from this guideline. This is our shoulder line now. So let's assume that we are using the neck width of 3 inches. Then the shoulder divided by 2 is 8.5 inches. So I'll mark it here. So from this now I will be coming down 1 inch for the slope, right? Then from that 1 inch for slope, I'm going to be marking down for the chest, which is 8 inches here, right? So this will serve as our chest line. Then from the shoulder here, I'll be marking down for the bust. So shoulder to bust point is 10.5. Then shoulder to under bust is 15.5. Then half length is 18 inches. I'll make this into a straight line. Now I'm going to be marking what I have here, which is mark the midpoint from the slope to the chest line. What I have is 8 inches. The midpoint is 4. Then from that midpoint, I'm going to be coming in 0.75. Then I'll use my straight ruler to connect it up this way. I'll use my curve ruler to connect it to the chest line this way. So that's it. On this chest line here, I'll be marking the bust circumference divided by 4, which is 9.75. I'll mark it here. Then I'll be coming to the waist. I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4. The waist circumference divided by 4 is 8.5 inches. I'll mark it here. Then I'll be using that intake of 1.5. So I'll mark it here as well. So this 1.5, that intake that we have here, that's what we're going to be using on the waistline here. So I'll use my ruler to connect. On this waistline here, nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple divided by 2 is 4.25. I'll mark it here. I also mark it on the chest line this way too. Then I'll use a straight ruler to connect it. Then on the waist, what we've already marked here, which is the 1.5 inches, I will share it into 2 and place it here, which is here. That's 0.75 on both sides, right? Then I'll connect my dart leg this way. So that's it. Now on the under bust here, from this dart leg here, I'm going to be coming in 0.25. Then I'm going to be going out 1.25. I'll mark it here this way. Then I'll use a straight ruler to connect it to the waist. Also connect these two to the waist this way. Then I'll be using the curving part of my ruler to connect this up. So that's it. Make sure that this part is not sharp. So now that's it. Now this is our slope, right? Let's imagine this is the slope, right? So now this slope here, I'm going to be marking the midpoint of this slope line, which is here. Then I'll be connecting it to the dart apex this way. That's it. So remember, the chest line is from the shoulder to our chest, we have 9 inches. So we'll connect it straight to this point here, 9 inches, which is here. Now I want to determine how low I want it to be, and I want it to cover the bust area, right? So to do that, I will measure for my bust line to my under bust what I have. I will place it up this way. So when I measure mine, I have 4.75, so I'll mark it up this way, 4.75, which is here. So from this shoulder here, you measure down what you have. Here I have 5.5. So this 5.5 is what I'm going to maintain here. So this is it, 5.5, right? So that means from the shoulder to where I want it to, the off shoulder to be is 5.5, because I want it to cover my bust. So it's going to, with this now, it's going to cover my bust, but you can still, if you want it to be lower or even higher, you can go ahead and do that. But this is moderate for with the measurement I did here. Remember, the chest line is 9 inches, so I'll go up with 0.75. Then I'll be connecting this. I'll connect this to this 5.5 this way. So I'll have to place, so you can see the way I place my curve ruler. I'll connect it up this way, right? So you can blend it up. Then you also blend it to meet this curve, your armhole curve, right? So this is what I have. So just blend it smoothly this way so that this part here can be nicely, can be smooth. So this is it. So this line here, I'll be marking 0.75 on both sides. Remember, on the waist we remove 1.5, right? So you come to this up here, whatever you do on the waist, if you do 1/2 inch on both sides, you come here and do 1/2 inch too. So because I use 1.5 at the down part, so this upper part here I'm going to be using 1.5. That means we have to share it for both sides, which is 0.75, 0.75, which is 1.5, right? So we'll be connecting it back to the bust. So that's it. I will be coming down on this bust line here. I'll be coming down 1.5 inches for the bust dart. So this bust dart here, the 1.5 inches, the length of this front will be longer than the back length with 1.5, which is what we have removed from this. So always do this to your bustier. It's always come out very nice. It's all we need for this front pattern. So we'll be cutting it out. So I'll cut this part open first, then I'll close my bust dart. So when I want to cut it on my fabric, I'm going to be cutting this part folded. I'll be adding 1/2 inch on this upper part here to turn it, and also add 1/2 inch here to join these two panels together. I also need to add my side seam allowance on this part here. So let's cut the part. I'm just going to mark for my zip seam allowance. So we'll be marking 1.5 inches for zip seam allowance. So I'm just doing my center back shaping with this method I'm doing here now. So what I did here was that I measure my 1.5 inches for my zip seam allowance, then I remove 0.75, then I replace the 0.75 starting from this 1.5 inches that we marked before, right? So I replaced it here. So our measurement is starting from here this way. So the measurement is started from here. So this part here is going off, and this is our zip seam allowance. So we still have our 1.5 inches. If you measure it this way, this is still the 1.5 inches, right? Hope that is clear. So the back is going to be low as well. Now what I will do is that I will first measure from the shoulder this way. So this will serve as our shoulder. So this edge part, So I will measure from that edge now. I'll measure down. Remember, the front length we make use of 18 inches. Now for the back, we are going to removing 1.5 inches away from that. So that means it will take us back to 16.5, right? So this is our 16.5. So now we are going to be marking from this zip seam allowance. We'll mark the shoulder divided by 2, which is 8.5. We'll mark it here. Then from there we'll come down 1 inch for slope. From that 1 inch for slope, we'll come down for our chest, which is 8 inches. So we'll make this line to a straight line. This is the chest line. Then up to your chest line, we mark the half of it, which is 4 inches. Then you come in 0.75, the same we did for the front. Then we'll be connecting our armhole curve here. So I'll connect the armhole curve this way. And I'll use a straight line to connect this up. Chest line here, we'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4 with 7.5. We'll mark it here. Then we'll come to the waist. The waist circumference divided by 4, which is 8.5. We'll mark it here. Plus 1 inch for that intake. We'll replace it here too, this way. So I'll be connecting my line this way. So that's it. Now for the back, I will determine how I want it to be low. So I will just maintain what I have from the shoulder to in this armhole curve, the same way I have for the front. That's what I'm going to maintain. So when I measure mine, I stop it at 7.5 inches. Then so that means this part here, which is the armhole curve, is going to enter into the armhole on the person, right? So then I'll determine how I want it low at the center back. So I want mine to be below the chest line. So I'll be coming down from the chest line 1 inch. Then I'll use my curve ruler to connect it this way. I just place my curve ruler this way and connect. I'll connect it this way into the zip line. So I just connect it into the zip line this way. Then on this waist here, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Then mark 1/2 inch on both sides, which is 1 inch, that intake that we've already taken from here. Then I'll connect it straight up this way. So this is it for the back, right? So we'll cut this out. When I want to cut it on my fabric, this is the zipper allowance side. I've already added my zip allowance here. Then I'll be adding 1/2 inch here to join it to the down part. I'll also add 1/2 inch on this upper part here to turn it with my lining. I'll also add 1/2 inch here. Then I'll add my side seam allowance on this part here. So we'll be having 2 of this, right? After cutting it on my fabric, this is what I have. So I'm using the material too as my lining. So I just cut 2 of this. So I cut this part here folded, and as you can see, I added 1/2 inch on the upper part, 1/2 inch at the side here, and I added 1 inch at the down part because I'm going to be using 1 inch to join it to the down part. But if you want, you can make use of 1/2 inch, right? So I open it up this way. This is what I have. And this is for the side, right? So I added 1/2 inch on this part here, added my side seam allowance on this part, and make use of 2 inches side seam allowance. So I'm going to open these 2 up. I'll place it like this. I'll make sure that this under bust has to meet with this. So I'll place it like this, and I'll be sewing with 1/2 inch, which is what I added, right? So I also place these 2 like this. So I'll sew this together, and I also sew this one too at the same way too. So this is for the front. Then for the back, this is what I have. The zipper allowance side, you can see the line, right? This is for the zipper allowance side, and this is for the side. So I've added my side seam allowance of 2 inches. Then I've added 1/2 inch on this part to join these 2 together. Then 1/2 inch at the upper part to turn it at the upper part. Then I also added seam allowance to the down part to also join it to the down part as well. So what I will do is that I will open it up. So also added my stay on this, right? So I'm using the fabric for both my lining and for the main piece, right? So this is what I have now. So I also open this two up. So I'll be placing it this way. I'll place it this way, then I'll sew with half inch. I also place this way too. I also sew with half inch, right? So I'll do the same thing to this other one too, then I'll come back to show you. Guys, here is what I have after finished sewing the darts on it. So this is it. So I said I'm going to be using my material for both the lining and for the main fabric, and this is it. So I can just choose any of this as the lining. So I'm going to be using this as the lining, and then I'm using this as the main fabric. So then I've also make a strap, or I just use some of the pieces of this my material, fold it, then sew it. So here I have like half inch here as the width, then the length, remember we measure, I'm going to put it on the screen, the front we came down by 4.5 inches, right, for the off shoulder. Then for the back we came down by 8.25, right? So that's what I have. Then I added some inches to it, like 2 inches to it, so that when I place it this way, after I finish sewing it to the back, I'm going to be having a little excess, then I will adjust it on my client's body. So that is what I have now for the front. Then for the back, this is the panels for the back, and here I've also sewn my dart line, right? So this is for the main dress, and this is the lining piece, right? So what I will do now is that I'm going to be putting my bra cup on this, right? So I'm going to be putting the bra cup on this. So what I will do is I'm going to fold this, I'm going to be putting it on the lining. So I'm using this as the main fabric, then I'll use this as the lining. So I'll turn it this way. So this is my under bust line. I notch it here. So this is it here. I've also notched it on every part. I've ironed the dart line open, right? So this is the under. I'll place this part here on this under bust line. I'm going to be sewing on the line here this way. I'm going to sew it to this under bust here this way too. So I'll do that. Then I'll be placing there. Imagine that I've already finished sewing the cup on it, right? So I will place this. I'll place this starting from this line, the dart line here. I'll place it this way, place it inside. I'll place this other one too. I'll place it inside this way. Then I'll be placing the lining on it, right side face each other. Then I'll be sewing the upper part. I will close it, right? So I'll be closing the upper part. Then after closing the upper part, I'll do the same thing to the back too. I'll be placing the back lining to lining, fabric to fabric this way. Then I'll be turning this part here. So when I want to turn it, that has a cross, right? It has a scissors effect. So I'll make another stripe again. So I'll just measure after my zip allowance of 1.5 inches. I'll measure extra 2 inches. Then I'll place it there. Then when I want to sew it, so it will be inside this way, right? So I will just sew and turn out. But for the main strap that is coming from the front, I'm just going to place it on it by the time I finish. So let me do all of that I've shown you now. I'm going to also turn it at the side, right? So let me do all of that and I'll come back to show you. And I'll be cutting the down parts. I'm using my paper here to draft it, then after which I'll transfer it to my fabric. So the length of the skirt I'm going to be making use of is going to be a long skirt, so I'll be making use of 45 inches here. When I want to cut it on my fabric, I'll be adding 2 inches extra to hem it at the down part, right? So this will be our waistline. This starting point will be our waistline. So from the waistline, I'll measure down the hip. So this is 10 inches. So I'll make use of 10 inches. So these 10 inches include the seam allowance I'm going to be joining it at the upper part here. So I'll make this into a straight line this way. This is the hip line, right? Then the down part is the length. So on this hip line here, I'll be marking my hip circumference divided by 4. So the hip circumference divided by 4 is 11. Then I'll be adding my side seam allowance of 2 inches. That's it. Then I'll come to the waist. The waist circumference divided by 4, 8.5. So I'll mark the 8.5 here this way. Then I'll be using that intake of 1 inch. Then I'll replace the dart intake. Then I'll be marking the right side seam allowance of 2 inches. I'll use my curve ruler to connect it this way. So that's it. What I have here, I'll measure it, which is 13 inches. So this is 13 inches. This 13 inches that we have on the hip, I'm going to measure it on this hem part here, 13 inches. I'll mark it here this way, which is here. Then because it's going to be form of A shape, it's not going to be too tight on her. So I will be adding 3 extra inches here. I'll add 3 inches extra. Then I'll be connecting it to the hip. So from the waist to the hip is a little bit fitted, right? So from this hip here, I'm going to be coming down 1 inch. So that's where I will start the connection from. So I'll use a straight ruler here this way. Let's use this curving part. Use a straight ruler. I'll connect it to that 1 inch this way. Then I'll use a longer ruler to connect the A shape downward. So on this hem part here, I'm going to be going up. So I want to remove this sharp point. So I'm going to be going up 1.5 inches this way. Then I'll blend it. I'll use my curve ruler to blend it. From here this way, I'll be marking nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll mark it here. Then from there, I'll be coming down to where I want the dart to stop, which is 7 inches. Then I'll be marking 1/2 inch on both sides. Remember that we've replaced the 1 inch here. So I'll connect it up this way. So this pattern here is folded into 2, right? Because of the slit at the front. I don't want the slit to be on both sides, so I fold this into 2. I'm going to be cutting just one side of it. So what I have from here to a nipple to nipple that I have here, I also place it at the down part here this way. So place it here 4 inches. Then we'll use our straight ruler to connect it. So with this now, I want the slit to be at my left hand side. So this is my left hand side, right? So I want the slit to be at my left hand side. So after this now, I will cut it off this way. I'll use this pattern to cut for the back too. What I will just need is that when I want to cut for my back, I'll place this on my fabric, and I'll add my zip seam allowance to this part here. So I'll cut this out. When I want to cut for the front, I'll open it up this way. I'll be opening it up this way, then I'll cut this part open, right? Then I'll remove this dart. I'll remove this dart out. Then I'll be adding 1/2 inch. I'll add 1 inch on both sides. You can add 1/2 inch depending on what you want to use to join it back. I will add in 1 inch on both sides so that I will sew it to where I want the slit to stop, right? Then when I want to cut for the back, I'll just close it up this way. Then I'll first use it to cut for the back first, then add my zip seam allowance on this part here. So I'll cut it on my fabric, then come back to show you. So here I've gone ahead to cut it on my fabric, and for the back, you can see the one for the back, and for the front, I've also added my seam allowance to it, to the down part. I mentioned that I've added 2 inches to it, and that's what you have after the paper, right? So I'm just going to go ahead to sew the darts for the back on both sides, then for the front on one side, then join the slit to where I want the slit to stop. I've already finished turning it with my lining. So this is what I have. We turn it to the inside. This is what we have, and I've also sewed my bra cup too, as I've explained. I've sewed the bra cup too on it. So this is it. So I just sew it on the dart line, then sew it a little bit at the side, right? Then I turn it on the neck area. So this is what I have for the front, right? Then this is for the back. This is for the back. I've also turned it on the neck area, also on the side, on the armhole area. The same thing too to the front, the armhole area and the side. So what is left opening is just the down part. So I'll be joining it to the skirt, which is the down part now, right? So this is the skirt that we've cut earlier, and here I've also sewed the dart, and I've held the dart here. So I'm just going to place it like this. I'm just going to place it like this and flip it right side facing shoulder this way, and I'll be sewing with 1/2 inch, right? So whatever seam allowance that you added to the down part, you use it to sew it, right? So you have it like this. So I also do the same thing to the back too. I'll be joining it to the down part too as well.